Hey, thanks for joining us. This is Live with the Miami's Community News, and our guest today is Rabbi Ari Werbler. Thank you very much, Rabbi, for being here. And I want to make sure I got this right. You were with the Chabad of
Southwest
South Miami, and located off of Miller and 103rd Avenue-ish, right? Not related to Brother Grant, M.A. So you have an event that's coming up at Chabad on, when is this event? Coming up Thursday, all right? Why don't you tell us about it?
So Thursday evening, we have, it's called Tu B'Shvat. It's called the New Year's of the Trees. So one of the things that we say is we're compared to a tree. Out of all things to be compared of, why a tree? So not everything is just symbolic in life. It's more a microcosm we have within ourselves, everything we see in the world. So as we know what we go through, we grow through. And so one of the greatest expressions is a tree is always growing, and in the end, it gives off fruit. It starts with a seed, and it gives off good deeds. And that's like each one of us. And that's what the event's about, is seeing that blessing within ourselves, the tree-ness of us, and allowing ourselves to grow throughout the year.
So we know meditation, lots of times we talk about the tree of life, and you look at this huge tree and out on the limbs, and you can follow it through into the root system, because trees are very symbolic like that. And we see people can go hug a tree or sit underneath it, and it can go through a winter and look like it's disappeared, and then it reblossoms, 6 months later. So one of the things I would like to talk about is about giving. I want to share an experience I had at a local restaurant. I see 4 firemen sitting in a restaurant. I'm eating there. It happens to be predominantly Spanish restaurant. So I couldn't explain it to the waitress because I couldn't communicate that I wanted to pay part of their bill. So I walked across the restaurant to a corner of the restaurant, and I had to pass within 5 feet of these guys. So I go to the corner, and I'm talking with the waitress. She doesn't understand, so I call somebody else over. So he's facing me like this. So I said, I'd like to pay for these firemen's lunch. So he says, you mean them over there? And he points to them. And I said, yes, the ones over there. I wanted to do it anonymously.
Right.
So eventually, that took about 10 minutes for that to happen. So I come back to the office. My brother Grant calls me. He says, so you paid for the firemen's lunch, huh? I go, what do you mean? He said they couldn't help but see everybody pointing to them, and then he recognized you. The point that I wanted to make is giving anonymously is really significant, because if you're doing it for other people, that's fine. You're doing it for yourself, you give like that. And some people want other people to recognize them. Others, it's just for in here. And everybody has a different way of expressing that. So what I ask people to do is one day, just pay for the guy's lunch or pay for part of it. In the old days, we used to pay for the toll for the cars behind us. Sometimes you can be in line at early morning paying for coffee at McDonald's. By the time you get there, they're already working the next person.
Sure.
So you say, how much is that bill? $10, okay. All right, so you pay that. And there's lots of ways to do that, whether it's anonymously to a synagogue or to some sort of other charity, mental health or hospital, whatever it is. And one of the things I've seen is that I see in the Jewish community, there are a lot of people that give freely. And sometimes in such great amounts of time or product or energy. Tell us about how that is generated from these little kids to when they become adults, where they're very generous.
So what you pointed out about giving anonymously, actually, it's one of the highest forms of giving. And by the Rambam, Maimonides, he lays out actually different levels and ways we can give. And one of it is that the recipient doesn't know who's giving, and the giver actually doesn't even know who's getting. So it's like completely, so to say, altruistic in a sense. Now, the fact that it creates a good feeling within ourselves should not be discouraged. Actually, there's times that the Lubavitch Rebbe would encourage giving where people would know about it. Why? Because then it encourages others to do the same.
Yes.
So both have its advantage, and not to say like, oh, I got a good feeling out of this, so is it selfish? No, let my feelings come in a way that it motivates to do more of something good. So your question as far as how from a young age it encourages that when a child grows up, that giving is, so to say, in our DNA. So first of all, it's to know that it's in our DNA. that by nature we have an attribute that wants to give, that we're here not for just ourselves, that we're not just living alone, we're all in this boat together, in this world together, and there's a nature of giving. Then how do we encourage that? We're talking about Tu B'Shvat trees, right? So you have a seed, and a seed is planted, and its first thing it does is it has to be kind of absorbed in the ground, and it realizes it's a part of something bigger than itself. So as a child, you try to nurture the seed, or in the example, a child, to accustom itself, give it the right sunlight, the right water, that giving comes part of its nature. So we have that within ourselves, but you got to bring that to the surface.
Last time you were here, you left a small container with a little,
Yeah.
what was that called?
Well, we call it a tzedakah box, which tzedakah we translate as charity, but actually the word comes from right, like tzedek. It's the right thing to do. In Judaism, we don't do things like charity. Sounds like I'm doing somebody a favor. I'm not doing anybody a favor. This is the right thing to do, to be in a giving society, a giving community, that each one of us has something to give, something to offer. And we encourage that from a young age, not just for Jews, but for the world over, is that the more we give of what we have to give, the more we get as a community.
So
and we have to do that before we leave. We'll have to, maybe on the way out, because I didn't bring it into the office to the interview today. We'll all put something in.
So you went to graduate school down here. Did your folks live in Chicago, or was that
my folks are from New Jersey? My in-laws are in Chicago. Yeah.
So you decided, I'm going to move back to Miami, all right? And you picked Miami to move to because of what?
I think I've said this before. I think our places pick us rather than we pick the places we go. You know, they say there's a divine spark in every place and everything in creation, and our souls are called to certain places to reveal it in the soil there what its mission is. So, like you saw those firemen in the restaurant,
yep,
and you said, "There's something for my soul to do right here."
It was so great because one of the guys sitting there knew me. I didn't know him. He's the one that called Grant, and I went, "Okay."
He caught you. Caught you in a good act. That's a good thing.
So you moved off of Miller, right?
Yeah.
And you're cultivating an area. It's not necessarily just there, but cultivating an area brand new to you, right? Yeah. And so how do you put together an organization of people that will want to go to what you're offering, and how do you get them to go and then to stay?
So I think God is not intimidated by any obstacles, and neither are we. We, each one of us, have the divine spark within us. And the more I see that, it could be intimidating, because like you said, it's not just one little location. It's a lot of geographical, actually. It's very spread out. And the more I meet people, the more I see that each one of us wants to be called into our own callings, our own spiritual pursuits, our own soul missions, to see that fireman on the street that we could help, that person that could use a cup of coffee, a tree that we could contribute. Yesterday we had, I'll give a big shout out to Dr. Cohen, who knows that we have this.
Which one?
Dr. Eric Cohen.
Oh, Eric, okay.
Yeah, give a big sense of gratitude. Maybe he'll watch this interview, that we have this fruit event. So he is very nurturing of the trees. And we have a big box of fruit for those who want to come to our event. We'll see fresh. You can't find them at any other store. And that the idea of growing, each one has a seed to plant that leads to a fruit. And the more that we see that about ourselves, the more we naturally want to give.
And his son Scott, also a chiropractor, all right, also is very much into plants.
Yeah, they work together.
Yeah, and it's just amazing to see Scott grow and to allow Eric to take a different seat than he had originally.
Right.
So here we are, 2025.
Yes.
You just had an event. You had a Hanukkah party at your house.
Yeah.
Right. And so again, you have an event coming up. That's tomorrow night.
Thursday night.
You have it Thursday night. Yeah. Today's Wednesday.
Yeah, it's tomorrow night. Yeah.
Tomorrow night. And you have this famous bakery chef, right? And what is she going to be sharing?
So Miss Myers is going to be bringing the sweetness to life. We have the idea of fruit. It seems to be something,
and we have the invitation up on the screen.
Please, that it's not seemingly a staple of our lives. People say eat your fruit and vegetables, but I think if you speak to most doctors, they say eat your vegetables. The fruits adds a taste to life, a sweetness. And the interesting thing is that speaking about the example of us being like a tree, Lauren Meyer is going to help us to actually internalize that. We're going to have chocolate-covered fruit and interactive too. People are going to be able to make their own fruit platters.
Really?
Yeah, you should
Well,
come.
Right.
Maybe.
You know what?
Maybe.
Maybe we'll be there. That's wonderful. I happen to know her. All right. So tell me about where Chabad's going to be in a year and 2 and 3 from now.
Oh, wow. Well, just like a seed, we plant and we take each day at a time. Each day has to be its own accomplishment, own success story, each interaction. So when you say a year, 2 years, 3 years, I guess, right, when you plant a tree, there's actually a story in the Talmud, right, where someone saw someone planting a tree and he was saying, you're not going to see the fruits from this tree for many years. You're not even going to be around to see it. He says, but what about, like you were talking about, the next generation, the next step? So the next step is always each fruit and each mitzvah, each act we do, the word mitzvah meaning to connect, builds on another one and another seed. So I guess I'm less concerned where a year or 2, but just that every seed that we plant now is going to yield fruit. And that's each individual has an opportunity to share their fruit. So in a year, in 2 years, every connection we make now will only lead to more growth.
So we understand when we plant trees, we need to make sure they're in the right place.
Right.
So when it grows, it's not going to. It can flourish rather than getting crowded.
Yes.
So as you plan your events,
yes,
how do you determine what event you're going to do and when? How do you do?
Oh, so there's two parts to that. I think there's the general intention. We just had the anniversary of the inauguration, so the Lubavitch Rebbe Yud Shvat, and his main focus actually was his teaching from our tradition. Basi lagani v'chasikala. I have come to my garden, meaning this whole world is a divine garden. So when it starts out that each moment is a moment of cultivation, it's just a matter of saying, what season is it? So the Torah itself, the Bible, our tradition, provides seasons. And just like you have your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you have different days, you need different waterings for a plant, as you said. So this year we always have Tu B'Shvat is this time of year, Passover is this time of year, that the seasons have a certain energy with it that we carry through. And then we just highlight that. We just show up to do the work. So it's pretty, so to say, simple in that sense, is that the Torah gives us exactly the prescription on how we could bring out the seeds in each time of year.
So a couple of years ago, maybe 10 at this point, my wife takes us to, is it 777? Is that the address?
770.
770.
Yeah.
So that was the home, if you will, of Chabad.
Mm-hmm.
And so I go in, I'm welcomed in, and they're literally a couple of hundred, right?
Mm-hmm.
Orthodox, studying the Torah, and it seems like they were yelling at each other, but it was really a conversation and sort of a debate.
Right.
I was so overwhelmed about these students, these educators, these Orthodox, they wanted an opportunity to share with each other. I was like beside myself. A young guy, age 60 or 70, this is your first time here? Yes. He takes me over, takes me over, and he has me stand next to where they're actually reading the Torah.
Yeah.
I almost fainted, all right? He's looking at me and I'm looking at him. It was because it was so emotional for me to be exposed to that. And the same journey, I went to a store. Everything in it was all Jewish stuff. I stood in the middle of this 4,000 square foot store. I'm bawling like a baby. I'm completely, out of control, sobbing. And I realized that was the connection that I was having that I really never had before.
Right.
It was really extraordinary for me. And then we stayed in a Orthodox, I'm not sure if it's correct term, in a hotel, right? And it's not an Orthodox hotel, but it sounds like only Orthodox go there. So I looked out the window and I said, my great-grandparents were here sometime. Yeah. Somewhere back there, right. They were there. And it was so unusual for me to get touched like that.
Right.
About 5 years before, I was running the New York Marathon, and we were running through parts of town that were Orthodox. I ran across the street where there was a synagogue, and Orthodox was standing out front. And I said, may I get your picture? So I had somebody take a picture of me at the doorway to the synagogue. And I sent it to my wife. And I said, this is a message that I knew to run from one side of the street to the other to preserve that. I see that photograph now because I pulled it out. I have it floating around on my desk someplace. Every couple of days I see it. I'm dressed in running outfit. Everybody else is dressed like a Friday night. And those three occurrences for me were significant in my life about some awareness and about some door opening. So, okay, the door is open. Now what do you want to do?
Right.
You want to go in? And I think that all of us at some point decide whether we just want to be at the doorway, whether you want to be in the back, whether you want to be up front, whatever it is. And so one of the things that we try to express here is people on whatever level they're at, whether it's work, relationships, religion, or belonging to something, people should be able to participate on wherever they're comfortable.
Yeah.
And about 5 years ago, I went to a funeral of a dear friend of ours that died, and the minister lady, she was a lady, minister, and she said, we're going to have a moment of silent meditation, and please join us on whatever level you would like.
Right.
I'm going. She gets invited back. And I think that's what we all seek is an opportunity to be on however we want to participate. So as a rabbi, when you talk with people, how do you deduce where they're at and welcome them on whatever level it is? How do you do that?
So you said some really key points there that actually speak to me and how I speak to people. First, as you said, orthodox, you don't know if that's the right term. Like we say, labels are for T-shirts. Because in Judaism, we believe it's who your identity is. And that's what attracted you in all these situations where your Jewishness, your neshama, as we say, your soul is coming to life. The example that you mentioned in coming over across the street in the middle of the marathon, and you said, look at what I was wearing, look what he was wearing. Actually, there's something called levushim shebenefesh, the garments of the soul. Is that we have intentions, words, and deeds. And those are the things that we actually can always guide. So when it comes to who we are, essentially we are a piece of the divine on any level. That's the way we see when you see another. And the levushim, our intentions, words, and deeds, we could always change, just like clothes. And we could always find new ways to connect. And the example you mentioned about the woman who said about on whatever level you can, having a moment of silence. Actually, the Lubavitch Rebbe encouraged and to do it in certain schools in Florida, I think, too. I'm not up to date on all the politics about it, but he encouraged a moment of silence in schools, all schools. And he didn't say what you had to think about, but that just that you were, just that you were taking that moment to reflect. And so when you see that this is the essence of a person, of who they are, is their divine self, and each one is accomplishing that in their own way, and finding the right garments to dress to impress each one of us, then it becomes a fluid motion. It becomes an allowing process for that person to be themselves.
And we know when we have moments of silent meditation, sometimes you would be like, you go like that, all right, so the silence allows us to pause.
Right.
And if you get good at it, you just let the thoughts just fly by.
Right.
And one of the things that we are taught in meditation, there will always be noise.
Right.
Just let it go by. And then you can get to this soulful place to where if you're really deep in thought, you don't think anymore. You just be. Because when you know you're not thinking, then you're really not where you can be.
Well, I'll tell you, an advantage in Jewish meditation is that the first step is to clear out the clutter, right? Like you're moving into a house, you got to clear it out, or you're renovating or something like that. So then is, what do I furnish it with? And so Jewish meditation offers meditations. One of the profound verses that many Jews know is Shema Yisrael. So on a simple level, it says, listen, Israel, the Lord is God, the Lord is one. It's a very kind of generic translation. But Shema means hear. Listen, Yisrael, me. Hashem, this oneness in all of creation is very personal to me. And that oneness comes through with me in every moment. So I have something to think about when I've cleared out my mind that I could then take throughout my day. That there's this oneness that comes with me always. Because like you said, the mind is like they say, is like a river, right? It's always flowing. So what am I going to put on the river?
Right, you bring up a good point. And this is springtime. They call it spring cleaning.
Yeah.
Go to that closet.
Yes.
The stuff that you know you're never going to wear again. The stuff that when you bought it, you thought it was the best looking suit, the best looking dress, the best looking shirt. If you haven't worn it in 6 months, you're not going to wear it, right? take it and give it to somebody or to a place, and then you have this whole new slate. There it is. As you say, what are you going to do now?
And that's Tu B'Shvat. Tu B'Shvat is a lot about that, right? Why are we having Tu B'Shvat? Seemingly, actually, for most of this area of the world, it's the winter time, and we're celebrating the birth of trees, the birth of fruit. Seems kind of silly, but that you always have renewal. We always have the opportunity to grow as fruits and to see where we've been planting, maybe not in the right shade, in the right sun, in the right water, and to renew that and to give it more nurturance to our lives. So that's a beautiful thing that we could have at every moment in life, a renewal.
So let's talk about renewal.
Yeah.
What are some things that you're going to renew that you'd like to share?
I think, as I said at the beginning, what we go through, we grow through. And I think every week I'm faced, you said, as a rabbi, as an individual, let's put titles. Again, labels are for T-shirts. We experience things in life and we're wondering, how much more of this can we take sometimes? How much more can you dump on my soil? And that it becomes fertilizer in a sense, right? That we see that all the soil is really for our souls to grow. And I take that at every moment. Sometimes there's more acute moments for that, right? And Tu B'Shvat is one of those where we can really see how the challenges in our life are really springboards.
There's been a lot of discussion about waste to energy incinerators and about what do we do with our garbage and other trash. And I've been having a lot of conversations with people, including my wife, Susan. So I watched how this worked. I'm talking with her and telling her, our recycling program here in Miami-Dade County is, sorry guys, non-effective, all right? Susan went out and bought a composter for the house.
Wow.
Very quiet, it's electric, does not smell at all. We put food in it. And it chews it up at night and it makes fertilizer. Yeah. Which then we take what we were going to put in the dump, we take it and then we put it in the yard. And so that came out of a conversation about something about recycling, and she wanted to participate. Didn't even ask me, or didn't tell me. I said, what's this? It looked like an air filter. Oh, look. And we just put the food in.
Yes.
It's an amazing process from thinking about it, about what to do. So now she's made that happen, and now it's going back to the earth to start that process again.
And make it even better, right? The fertilizer.
So here we are over community newspapers. We're doing a lot of neat things over here. We work with a lot of not-for-profits, which we enjoy doing. We have a focus on mental health, on healthcare, including mental health care. And we know that the people go through all sorts of grief in their life, and we realize, it starts, you have babies, and then you get married, and you have kids, and you go to school, and of course there's illness and death, and living again. These podcasts, these TV shows have gotten very popular. We put up another studio up front. That's 4 studios. The thirst for people to want to share their story is so high. It is such a pleasure, and it, not just an honor. I recognize it's a responsibility.
Yes.
And when we, as journalists, about caring people, sometimes we see it like you see something, you might look at in the sky, you see something. So as journalists, we look at it and go, that is a good story. We need to allow this story to be told. Yeah. And this morning I sent an email to somebody, said, this story needs to be told. I'm going to have both sides. And it should be really good when we do that. And we've gotten really good at this, and it's sharing what we have, our good nature with this. Interesting that a lot of people that come on have suddenly lost partners or children, not through age, but through accidents or suicide. And to listen to their stories and to be able to share that, we know it's comforting for other people. And we're working on one where the gentleman, when he was in the hospital, he was sick. They filmed 18 different days that he was in the hospital. And I said, so you want to tell a story, that's why you did that. And so hopefully we're going to be able to put that together and create a booklet if you form a video booklet. So my question to you is, when are you going to have that available so when people look in 2026 and 27, they go, tell me how this all started. Do you have like clips of this stuff? So the number one thing is start recording, creating the content. Don't worry about how to put that together. Just create it. It's really easy when you have those pieces, as Alex can tell you, because Alex he's our producer. He goes out and he goes to people's businesses. We put it together, film, and he will go ahead and edit it and put those pieces together. So I would urge you to do that, because one day you're going to want to tell somebody, hey, this is how we started. Yeah. And we have a mutual friend, Rabbi Yossi Harlick, who 25 years ago, he said, let's create a program where students in the area can come and volunteer their time at the Chabad. What came from that was Friendship Circle. Yeah. He didn't say, let's do Friendship Circle. He said, let's do this over here. What do we need to do to accomplish this? Right. And so they opened their facility, 20,000 square feet of assistance for people of all ages that are on the spectrum. And I realized that we're all sort of on the spectrum, right? Because this is the spectrum of life, right? Mm-hmm. And as we spoke before about it, the 30-watt bulb, all right? Right? And the more I am humbled by that conversation. Yes. Because I'm looking at the bulb, I'm going, that's me, all right? So when you look at people, when you look at them, you say, here's this person, how can we help them shine on whatever level that is? What can you do to help them?
Well, I think it's not something that we need to recreate. We each have that potential inside us already. And it's just, there was an idea, the Lubavitch Rebbe was asked what he does, and he helps people find the light within them. So someone asked him, did you help me find my light? He goes, I just handed you the match. So it's really not something that we have to create for the individual. It's starting with that perspective, I think. You mentioned, what your wife was able to run with such an idea that ended up creating, and, people are really obsessed now with the idea of abundance, right? The law of attraction, seeing in our lives. There's an old Jewish expression, check good v'zayin good. Think positive and you will see positive. A lot of times abundance doesn't come from me receiving more. It comes through me giving more and being more resourceful with what I already have, whether it's with the compost that I'm making in my house or the internal compost. You told people about these stories that they share. It's our internal compost. It's our internal fuel that comes fertilizer, right, for our lives. And each one of us seeing that I have a story to share. And your encouragement for me to document mine so that in 1 year, 2 years, whatever, we see the growth of it. I've been very blessed to have Community News, who this is, I think, our fourth interview already. So I could look back on these, and we have videos throughout all the events we have. And the more that people come and participate and share their stories, the more footage we'll have. So come Thursday night.
Right. So we have a couple minutes left, but I'm very curious about why we as human beings, why we go back to religious organizations. You understand, you're curious the first time, but if you keep going, what is it that we find in our souls to say, that's a good place? Because there are many choices for everybody. Yeah. So when people go to a synagogue or a church, what are some of the factors that keeps them going?
Hey, listen, I can't speak for every denomination, but I think within Judaism itself, we believe that everybody has a divine purpose, and Jewish and from other backgrounds, cultures, we're all from Noah, we're all in the same boat here. And we're all driven by that purpose to create something, to be co-creators in this world. So we become just like a tree, right? There's either growth, there's no stagnation, there's no opportunity.
Only two things happen.
Exactly. So we each are being pulled and driven by that. There's a teaching in the Mishnah, B'samech b'chalkai, be satisfied with your lot. That's the idea of being happy with who we are, what we are, accepting of our divine mission. But we're never satisfied. We have a tzam nafshi, a soul desire, dissatisfaction. We're happy but not satisfied. And that's just the way we're programmed. And the why I don't know, but for what is to give more fruits to each one of us, to give our story and to share. The much of the Bible is in stories. Why? You just tell me what to do already. Because life's a story, not an instruction, not merely an instruction manual.
So we have 1 minute left. Yeah, I wanted to share with you, I might have mentioned before, my grandson lives on the waterway. He was out in the kayak. He's 10. And he held up a little plastic bag. Grandpa, look, I found some trash in the water. I'm going, how wonderful that was, that he picked it up, and it was to help the manatees that were there to keep it up, but that he's got it instilled, and he recognizes the bigger picture of what we do here. So anyway, I'm delighted that you're having an event tomorrow night, and bakery chef Lauren Meyer is going to be there showing offer some stuff. She's also going to show people how to bake and cook and cut up fruit.
We're going to make fruit platters. That's
fruit
beautiful.
Platters.
Bring sweetness into our lives. A wonderful family.
And she is very sweet. Rabbi Ari Werbler, thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Again, we're going to look in the red camera. Thanks again for joining us. Remember, take care of yourselves and your family. Have a good day.